you don't necessarily believe that personally, at a deep level, and maybe you suffer for it emotionally to some degree, even though you might obscure that from yourself, it's certainly something to score points with your peers. And there's plenty of that kind of, that competitive bantering in adolescent, especially adolescent male culture. And I mean, it's not surprising to some degree, because adolescent males have to figure out how to navigate the sexual landscape, and they're going to do that in all sorts of awkward and finally unproductive ways. It's not an easy thing to bind or to regulate properly, but I mean, these technologies like Tinder is a transformative technology, and it's radically underestimated in terms of its potency, because it produces hyper successful predatory males and reduces rejection. It eliminates rejection, because, I mean, you can be totally rejected, in which case you're a failure on Tinder. But in normal pre-mating interaction, let's say, there's a high probability of rejection, especially on the part of males. And that technology... Well,
there's actually research on this.
Yes.
On Tinder.
Yes.
So there's research basically showing that. So on Tinder, women they like, swipe right. They like the profiles of only 4% of the men that they see on the app. Whereas for men, when they see female profiles, they swipe right or like more than 60%. That's 60% of the profiles they see.
So that's really worth concentrating on, because that's a great example of hypergamy.
All right, so we're gonna start with hypergamy here in just a second, but that was the study I just showed you in the last one there. It's 4.5% of women swipe right on someone. So 4.5% of the profiles that are shown to women through the Tinder algorithm, 4.5% of them are swiped right. For men, it's a little bit over 60%. They're swiping. So if it's over 60%, are those guys the sexual predators that Jordan wants to make them out to be? Now what Jordan believes is this, at least as far, I don't want to put words in his mouth there. So let's just say this. I think his perception is that Tinder is this mechanism. It's this app. It's this methodology for like predatory guys, or if they're not predatory, they become predatory because they have this new technology that will enable their psychopathy and their, dark triadness or whatever. And they're going to fiendishly go and get with those chicks. All right. But yet it's only 4.5% of women are actually swiping right on those guys to make that a match. I would be very cautious in his assessment when it comes to things statistically or percentage wise, right? Again, 80-20 rule, Pareto principle. When it comes, and again, he's still harping on the conquests thing. He's still, young adolescent boys are always jockeying with each other because that's how they measure their dicks, right? That's the metric, right? How many chicks have you banged? Because that'll make you more of a man than him. Jim, you've got 12, and Johnny, you've got 10. So therefore, Jim's more of a man than you. No, there's absolutely no consideration of sexual selection on the part of women. Hey, Rob tries to insert that in. 4%. Oh yeah. Let's move along.
Right. So women mate across and up success hierarchies, and men mate across and down. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. So, and the women like men who are about 4 years older.
Okay. So he's right about that. But did you see what he just did there? Did you catch that? I would run it backwards. I probably should just so you guys pick that up. But I'll repeat that. Okay. He thinks that hypergamy consists of this: women mate across and up success hierarchies. But yet on Tinder, there's no real way to say that there's any kind of success, because Tinder is for one thing, which is hooking up. It's for getting laid, Jordan. That's for the alpha seed. What are we at the hour mark? It's the alpha fuck side of hypergamy, Jordan. Women want to get laid. They're not all sweetie, honey, Bambi, all little angels with halos on, right? Even the girls in Bible study, those chicks are on Tinder too, okay? Or Hinge or whatever the equivalent is, okay? So when when we talk about, how do women select, right? That was the whole thing about hypergamy. Now he's using, thank you, Jordan. Thank you for using the term like at least somewhat properly here, but he only focuses on the beta buck side of hypergamy. There are two sides. It is dualistic. There's the short-term sexual benefits. There's the genetic benefits. There's the hot guy on the foam cannon party. That guy looks like the dude in the hot fireman's calendar, and I really want to bang him. He really gets me off. My arousal level is way up here, right? That's women want to have sex. That's the validational side of hypergamy. The sex she wants to have. Enthusiastic consent. There it is. That's the sex she wants to have. Then there's the beta buck side, which is exactly what he just described here. And most guys, particularly tradcons, only exclusively focus on this one side, which is, they're success hierarchies. So women only pick guys who are in the success hierarchy. No, they don't. They go for guys that they want to bang, especially when they're younger, especially when they're in that window between 18 and 28 years old. Hot guy on the foam cannon party, Jordan. That's what they're looking for at that. That's certainly what they're looking for on Tinder. They're not looking for Mr. Right. They're looking for the guy who's just going to rock their world and hope to God that they can lock that dude down. Yeah, with a great new technology called hormonal birth control that we've already mentioned too. So you've got that. Now, he also explains this. He says, and then men mate across and down. Well, no, they don't. They would very much like to mate up. In fact, that's really the whole reason why guys want to get laid. They don't want a land whale. They don't want a land beast or whatever. They want the girl who looks like the centerfold, and they will do lots and lots of things to make sure or improve their chances to do so. If a guy can get above his sexual market value, his SMV level, he's going to do it. In fact, that's really the whole point of the red pilling game. Is to be able to sort of break out of like, what is it? You only get what you've gotten if you keep doing what you've done. It's not there. Yeah. Men don't have an attraction floor. And I've tried to make this point and stress this point on so many goddamn podcasts that want to run me up the flagpole for it, Charlie and Ben. But it's true. And here it is. Here's your God. Here's your demigod, Jordan Peterson, saying exactly that. They don't have a attraction floor. No one's ugly after 2 a.m. They'll be happy to get. You hear about slump busting? Yeah, you don't hear that from women. You hear that from guys. Yeah, what is it? Whale hunting? Chubby chasing? There ain't no chubby chasing for women, right? You will find here's a really great example of this. You will not find a dating site for in shape Fitness America pageant model women looking specifically for fat guys, regardless of socioeconomic status. You will not find those sites. If they exist, somebody needs to send me the link to those. Here is a site that's specifically designed for women looking for fat dudes. No, there's plenty of sites for women who are looking for, executive introductions, right? They're looking for a rich guy for sure. Because you know why those exist? Because Tinder already exists. The executive introductions, which is in this case really, going up the socioeconomic ladder as far as hypergamy is concerned. Yeah, women want that, but they're usually looking for that when they get to be 28, 29, when they're ready to cash out of the sexual marketplace, when they hit their epiphany phase. Yeah, that's when women do, like, okay, Tinder, put you away, and now let's go over to executive introductions and see if I can find me a rich man with benefits. Because I've had my fun. I'm done with that anymore. I've completed my journey of self-discovery. And you know what I discovered about myself? I need a man with benefits at 29 years old. That's what I've discovered. Conveniently at the average age of first marriage, 28, 29, somewhere there. Average age of first birth, right around the same time. Coincidence? I think not. But again, all comedy aside here, what Jordan, and not just, I'm going to just pick on him because a lot of people in the sort of tradcon idealists think that they're happy to embrace hypergamy, but one side of hypergamy, which is the beta buck side. Men need to man up, and they need to get a good job, and they need to be husband material, and they need to be a good father, and they need to prepare themselves for maturity in life, and they don't want to be kidults anymore, and we can't have them prolonging their adolescence. They've got to be men. There's plenty of sites and plenty of gurus who are ready to teach you guys that too, because that's the only side of hypergamy that even ever registers in their brain. Because God forbid we say women really just want to have sex with the hot guy in the foam cannon party. They want that hot alpha seed, right? Well, we won't say that because that would step on the little lady's toes, and that might be some unflattering truths, brought up as a result of that. So we avoid that. So now hypergamy is defined by just the beta buck side. Now, guys, you black pill doomers, here's your chance. Here's your term. The only thing you focus on is the alpha fuck side of hypergamy. The only thing you guys focus on is looks. Maybe status. Oh, does he have a 10-inch dick? Yeah, okay, I guess there's that too. Physicality. There's only one side of hypergamy to those guys, and that's the alpha fuck side. It's never the twain shall meet, or maybe it does, but nobody cares about it. Women don't care about those guys, or they're just using those dudes, right? Oh, you're never going to get her sexual best because she wanted to fuck Chad in the foam cannon party. Like, that's all you focus on, and then that's all tradcons focus on. They never want to say, look, there's alpha fucks and beta buck. It's dualistic. There's two sides to it. No one ever wants to talk about it. Or if they do, they want to stress one side over the other.
Cross-culturally, they like men who manifest signs of success, as well as being handsome and personable and all of that. And the reason for that, as far as I can tell, is that they're looking to equalize the economic disparity that exists because women take a harder hit from sex and pregnancy than men. So they're looking to equalize that. And no wonder they're looking for someone who's competent. This is for long-term mating, who's competent and generous, right? You want both of those. So competence would be intelligence, general cognitive ability, and the markers that go along with that. They want conscientiousness or openness, as well as other desirable personality traits. And they want generosity, honesty, all of those. But so they're looking for someone who can provide. Well, it's not because they're greedy precisely. It's because, well, they're going to put themselves in a more vulnerable position if they have a child. And we know this because even affluent women who have a child by themselves or who get divorced tend to drop down the socioeconomic hierarchy a fair bit, which is, of course, why alimony payments and all of that are necessary.
Okay. Now then, let's explain a few things here. Now, I realize this can be, what I'm about to say can be misconstrued as an apex fallacy. I get that, but let's just, for sake of illustration, let's just go with this here. The top 10 richest women on planet frickin' Earth made their money two ways, and most of them one way. That one way is divorce. And then there's heredity, right? There's inheritance. Either the husband died or the father died and she inherited the business, inherited the money, inherited her net worth, let's just say. But by and large, of the 10, I think only like 4 have received the money through inheritance. I might be wrong about that, but I know that it's over half. So divorce is the number one way, the number one resource transfer for women. End of story. You want to know why marriage rates are so low? There you go. You want to know why divorce rates are so low? Because fewer and fewer people are getting married. Later on, and again, I'm not going to cover this, but later on they talk about family formation and all this other good stuff, and really kind of missed the point that they made right here, which is, yes, women want to get with the guy, but the whole thing is about alimony. First of all, the alimony, at least in the United States, I don't know how alimony works in other countries, but in the United States culture, the way that alimony works is the legal definition of, or the legacy, let's just say, of alimony came from 1930s. It came from the era of the Depression. So that men wouldn't just up and leave their families in the Great Depression when they couldn't afford to take care of them, and they didn't want to go into the soup line, and they didn't want to go into the Dust Bowl or whatever. They didn't want to, it's like, I got all these kids, but there's nothing I can do. So they're abandoning their families and their wives and everything like that. So therefore you have alimony. It used to only exclusively apply to men. Alimony can apply to, it's only applied to men in that sense. It can apply to women now because we've decided that whoever makes the most money is the one that's going to be on the hook for it. Well, that's all fine and dandy until you get into issues of child support as well. Now, I don't know that Jordan has any firsthand knowledge of this because I don't believe he's ever been divorced. Right? I think he's only been married to his wife for God knows how many years. But that's the real legacy of alimony. Let's just say. And now, did alimony exist before that? Yes, it did. But the way that we consider alimony is a sort of a vestige from the Depression era in the United States, anyways. So there is that. The other side of this is that he is not really considering the importance of provisioning, protection, and the 3 Ps. Now, he is kind of covering this in the way that I've talked about in the past. Women are the more vulnerable sex. At least he's using that language now. You know, if you don't want to call them the weaker sex, they are the more vulnerable sex. However, the reason why women are picking those particular qualities isn't because they're, you know, thinking about things in the long term as far as like their financial security is concerned. It's because that's written into that's hardwired. That's what women look for. There used to be a balance between alpha fucks and beta bucks. That was the balance of hypergamy. Because the traits that made a guy hot were also the traits that happened to make that guy a good provider, a good protector, and you would at least hopefully be invested in you when it comes to the kids. So a guy, like when we see a guy who has the capacity for violence, which he's talked about several times, you know, it's good to be a dangerous man, but, you know, not to actually use it, but to know that you have the capacity for you know, violence. Good. I 100% agree. However, what's the reason for that? Why? Because that guy could be a protector. That guy can at least turn that on and suddenly become a berserker and take off the head of the enemy tribesman if he had to defend his, you know, the mother of his children and his children. Yeah, that guy, yeah, he's hot because he's muscular and he's got a capacity for violence. Wow. Does that track with the dark triad traits we were just talking about? That psychopathy and all that other stuff? I think the ideal guy, the perfect guy I'm not saying he's going to say this, but the perfect guy to this mindset is the guy who is just this savage animal. It's like Beauty and the Beast, and they can turn it off just instantaneously. Like when I've talked about like the different, like people always want to talk about toxic masculinity versus like what's good, what's non-toxic masculinity. And that, of course, that's just a trope. That's just a contrivance. It's like it's a means of control, really, is what it is in terms of a gynocentric social order. But the reason why we want to characterize certain aspects of masculinity as toxic versus the ones that are like less toxic, those aspects that are less toxic are the ones that benefit women. They're the ones that are like appropriate. They're validated in a feminine society. Express yourself emotionally. Anger is my default emotion as a guy, so therefore I'm going to express myself emotionally. No. That's toxic. Well, you don't get one without the other. The same impetus that makes you a berserker is also the same one that, you know, makes the firemen run into the burning building to go save the kids. That throw caution to the wind. That's risk taking. Women are far more risk averse than men are. Innately, naturally, that's our proclivity. Why is it that men live longer or women live longer than men? Because men are stupid and they take stupid chances. Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. We're prone to that. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just in how we do it. You know, sometimes you need to go take risks. Sometimes you just need to say, what the fuck, right? So let's just keep going because he's going to talk about hypergamy a little bit more here.
So this hypergamy means women are much more selective in their mating than men are, and that's true cross-culturally. And it's not surprising because they pay a bigger price for sex. It's more dangerous for women because they can get pregnant, and it might be more dangerous emotionally as well. And I believe that would be a reflection of their higher levels of agreeableness and higher levels of negative emotionality. So women do put themselves at risk more, and that might be why there's such a intense debate about what constitutes consent on campuses, despite these beliefs in polyamory and all of these things. But so anyways, on Tinder, as you said, women select 4% of the men.
Yep.
So that means,
and I would imagine that 4% is very high up on what you're calling the success hierarchy. I have a friend, a good-looking guy.
On Tinder, on Instagram, I mean, maybe you could flex on Instagram. I think probably a little bit more than Tinder. But as far as your profile and everything, women are looking for the alpha seed side of hypergamy. It's all about looks. It's all about perception. And God bless you, you black pill doomer guys, and doing your experiments with, getting Giga Chat and making fake profiles on Tinder just to do an experiment to see how many swipe rights he's going to get, right? Like they'll say, oh yeah, I'm a convicted, child killer or something like that. I just got out of jail, but I'm looking for a good time. And women, all he has to do is look good. And it's like hundreds and hundreds of women want to get with this guy. It's not about socioeconomic status. It's not about, does this guy look like a lawyer? I'm going to be a lawyer. I mean, can you put it in your profile? Sure. But are they picking it on? Are women picking those guys on the basis of socioeconomic status, on the basis of the beta buck side of hypergamy? No. Tinder is all alpha fucks. It's all short-term sexual. That's why they complain. They were just complaining a minute ago about how it fosters quote unquote hookup culture. Yeah. So it's like, guys, even Rob, sorry, but back the fuck up a little bit here. It's not about that. It's about nothing but looks and perception online. Maybe afterwards it does, but when they're hooking up, when they're meeting each other, is women selecting those guys based on pretty much how good they look. And Rob's going to say this here. So.
He was very active on Tinder for a while, and he accumulated more than 20,000 matches on the app.
20,000.
20,000. And he was so successful that Tinder pinpointed him early on and gave him all kinds of free perks and bonuses and lifted his radius restrictions, gave him the Tinder Gold app or whatever version of it, basically trying to entice him to continue to use the app. Yeah, they wanted to entice him.
This is so amazing.
They never want you to leave.
These are unbelievably pernicious and vicious broad-scale social experiments that are.
Yeah, they are. But again, he's good looking enough to get that. Now, I don't know how true this is, but let's just say for sake of argument, he's good looking enough to get that and get into that, get the gold card, right? The gold card, which is like a pussy pass for the guy, right? To be able to get that, the reason why Tinder wants that guy around is he's good advertising. That's why. It's not because they're fiendishly again. Notice how they default to the idea that it must be the guy. It's Tinder, like motivating this guy to go out and get more sexual conquests and use these poor girls up. Poor girls who would be swiping right on him in the first place. The ones that he got 20,000 right swipes on because he's so good looking. Yep, there you go. Looks money status. Yes, okay. Good looking. Yes. Now, later on, maybe they find out he's a dork, right? Who knows? Probably not, but and we can talk about congruency, but as far as hypergamy goes, again, alpha fucks, beta bucks. Tinder is all about the alpha seed side of hypergamy. Deal with it. I know it's hard, Jordan. I know, Rob, maybe. I know it's tough, but you have to understand that it is women making these selections. It's not guys, and it's not even Tinder. Tinder's reacting to the market. I think it was, I know what it was. I was doing the show way back. I think it was like almost a year ago or over a year ago now. I was doing the show for John from Modern Life Dating's body language mastery course. And I think it was the second one. And I did a video with him. And I think we were talking about like maximizing your Tinder profile and what you can do with your pictures and how you can use Face App and how you can, basically it's all manipulation of the perception of who you are and what you are, right? Who you are when you show up at the date is probably going to be somebody different than who you are when you're on Tinder or Instagram or whatever else, right? It's brand management at this point. I think what both of these guys don't understand is that's where we're at in 2021. Dating, mating, family formation, everything we've talked about up to this point in the conversation is all brand management. It's all perception. It's all what does she believe you're going to be like to get to that point where it's like, well, okay, I guess I'll get with them. It's all salesmanship. It's brinksmanship. Go look that one up, kids, But the fact of the matter is it's all brand management. And guess who's helping you? What's the platform? Who's facilitating this? Well, Tinder is. Of course they do. So on that show with John, we were talking about building up your your social media profile and your, what the best practices are. I think there's a site where you can send in your pictures that you have on social media on Tinder, and it will tell you how you can improve those. I don't remember the name of the app. John will probably school me on this, but it will give you sort of a rating for that picture and how successful it will be and how it won't, as in an algorithm comparing like all the other pictures that are on that profile and this, comparing similarities and stuff. That's how in depth it is. And these guys are like shocked to find out that this is really what's going on. It's like, no, that's it. Tinder is just facilitating the market that already existed before they came around. Tinder's not fiendishly going, ha ha. Then they're if they are, they're probably doing it unwittingly. But Tinder doesn't work if the sexual marketplace isn't what it is. So yeah, of course, you can talk about social media and trying to make it as addictive as possible. That's what Rob's saying. He's trying to make it. They try to make it as addictive as possible. Well, if you're getting 20,000 hits, you might want to stick around. If that's the case, you are you're probably at the top of that, the pinnacle of that apex, 20% of guys, right? You're probably at the very top of that. Whether those guys are like, I would love to ask Rob, do you think your friend is dark triad? Is your friend, is he, a psychopath? Is he narcissistic? Or is he just so good looking that Tinder would love to use him as an advertisement for the women who are coming in there? Because primarily Tinder is used by guys. Most online, facilitators of sex and the hookup, whatever passes for the hookup culture. The hookup culture really is the top 20% of the guys getting with the 100% of women who want to get with them, or close to. I'm not saying they're all doing that, but I'm just saying that the 100% of women who want to get with the top 20% of guys, here's Tinder. Here's how you get to them. Here's the keys to the castle, baby. And then the other thing I mentioned on John's show back then is that Tinder in particularly, and I would presume Bumble and Hinge as well. They use an algorithm for it's like a tournament style algorithm. So that if you are if you're an elite class member of Tinder, or you have a profile that's getting 20,000 hits for, swipe rights from girls, you must be hot shit. And so what they do is they put you into, you can't compete. They don't want to put you with the other low lives. They don't want you to get with like the women who are just the run of the mill free account, whatever it is, or whatever you're paying, like the basic account. They want you to be in the elite count because they can make more money off of that. And you can get laid more. It's your payment is getting pussy because you're at the top of the list. You're at the top of the heap. So yeah, we'll be happy to reward you with all the sex you want, is because we're making all kinds of money off of women who want to swipe right on you in the hopes that they're going to bang you because they're doing the selecting. You might like some of them. I'm not saying to take his choice out of it, but by and large, the reason why he's in that class, that weight class, that he's no longer in the farm leagues. He's been seeded in a tournament style algorithm that puts him into an elite class. He gets the gold card, right? Me and John pointed that out way back in 2018, 2019. He'll let me know, I'm sure. But yeah, I mean that they don't want you in. That you're not for the commoners. But again, the reason why you're there is because women are making the choice to take you. It's not because the guy's like, oh, I'm addicted to this, I can't help it anymore. Oh, give me the gold card. No, stop. I don't want to fuck all these girls.
Far more potent than anything like government policy.
Well,
he's in Genghis Khan territory.
Yeah, he is.
With 20,000.
Yes.
I don't know if he slept with all 20,000.
Yeah, well,
Maybe
my
10,000.
suspicions are he tried.
My gut says he tried to bang all 20,000 of them. Okay, ladies, let's get it. Even Rob is laughing at this because it's ridiculous. It's ludicrous right there. I mean, it's like, that's a guy who could get that many clearly is the guy who's like running through all of these other beta males, future, soulmates. Not because they chose him, but because he's there getting come on, girls. Oh God, I don't know if I can't take 10 more. Oh God, no, one for the team. Even Rob's laughing.
And I know
he'll get a kick out of that.
That records for like athletes, for example, and movie stars, there's some of the men have reportedly slept
Chamberlain.
with thousands of women. Yes, Will Chamberlain, and
Gene Simmons.
there's others who are in the same category, but they're men who have women throwing themselves at them all the time, lining up for them. And I've read biographies of people who had that sort of thing happen as well.
But that's
Very,
not the
very high
typical male experience.
No, the typical male experience is all rejection.
Nothing.
Exactly.
Right. They might get a couple matches a week.
Right. So you see what's happening is that Tinder is one of the forces that's transforming monogamy into polygamy. And the problem with polygamy is that it follows a Pareto distribution, like the distribution of wealth, is that some tiny minority of men get all the sexual opportunity and all the rest get virtually none. And that is a recipe for social instability. I mean, that
sort of deregulation of romantic relationships,
of the
whereas in the
sexual
past it was
marketplace.
expected for you to have one partner and over time settle down, whereas now it's a total free-for-all. I mean, there are aspects to this that a lot of people don't think about. I mean, I talk to young people, so I have younger friends who I talk to who are sort of very active on the apps and in sort of the dating scene, and they'll tell me things like it's even easier to cheat. So in the past, if you wanted to be unfaithful to your partner, it was risky because, essentially like you had the same social circle, you had the same friends, everyone knew everyone else. But now with the apps, you can match with someone who is completely outside of your social reality, outside of your partner's social reality. You can have a very discreet rendezvous. No one will ever know about this. Ghosting has become more common. I don't know if you know about ghosting, but it's basically where you're in a relationship with someone, and after you have sex, once or however many times, then you just vanish. You never see that person again. Delete them from your phone, block them on social media. You never have to see them again. And there's no social cost to this.
That's a real psychopathic conquest strategy.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Because the psychopaths, they tend to form relationships that are very predatory and then disappear. Mm-hmm. Because that way their reputations stay intact as long as they can continue to disappear.
But I'm interested in what you had said before about whether this is actually sort of cultivating psychopathy in young people and young men, where, in the past, typically a psychopath would do that on their own. But now with the apps and the technology, removing all of the friction from, breaking up with someone or having to communicate with someone that you no longer want to see them, I think a lot of people who ghost others, they're not even thinking in those terms. They're not thinking, I want to maliciously hurt this person, or I don't care about this person. It's like, it's easy. You press a few buttons on your smartphone and you can move on to the next conquest. And I think.
All right. So that's, I want to get onto something else here at the hour 30 mark. And I really want to get to some other things here too. But again, you hear the same vernacular: conquest. Who's doing the selecting here? Again, is Tinder the bad guy in this? Maybe they bear some responsibility, but it doesn't exist unless there is a market for it in the first place. Is Tinder creating narcissistic Machiavellian psychopaths who ghost girls and just move on to the next? Now, most guys, and at least to his credit, at least Jordan figures out that, hey, look, the common experience for most guys is sexual rejection. And even Rob says, yeah, most guys get like 2 responses a week. And like, that would be good for most guys, actually. Get 1 response would be good. Because again, as we saw earlier, 80% of guys are listed as unattractive. Thank you, Steve Stewart Williams. Below average. That was the terminology. Below average. Like, I wouldn't want to get with them. Well, and again, people will say, oh, that's horrible. Roll on, going black pill. I'm going to be MGTOW. Oh, maybe Jordan's MGTOW now. Maybe he's black pill because he's he's speaking our language. I doubt it, but the fact remains is that, the stats don't look good. And the reason they don't look good is not because guys are fiendishly banging women left and right. It's because of exactly the same thing, or the purpose anyways, or the reason for it is because of the hormonal birth control. It started back in 1965. And we unfettered hypergamy, of which you only want to see one side. And until we embrace and until we acknowledge that women have the short-term sexual side as a primary motivator, and we're seeing it more and more and more today, as long as women have that other side taken care of, that blue pill beta bucks side of hypergamy taken care of, or perceptually taken care of, the belief that it doesn't matter because either I'll get alimony, I'll get child support, I'll get, AFDC, I'll get, socially network wise, people will support. I'm a superhero if I'm a single mother. Remember what Rob was saying before? He says, his friend who's, I don't know if it's the same guy, but he said his friend who was looking outside the 50, mile radius or whatever, outside of the university radius, they're all single mothers. So, I mean, come on, guys. It's like, it's a curb this high. You can't, you just jump over it, really. Connect those dots. And that's where, again, you want to know why. Well, I mentioned this on the show on Sunday with Ryan, why guys like Brett Weinstein or Steve Pinker, or Dr. Steven Pinker, especially Jordan Peterson, all these guys frustrate the hell out of me, with the exception of God's side. Frustrate the hell out of me is because they don't want to, they just unwilling, they just tunnel vision, they got blinders on, they just will not connect that dot. That, yeah, women bear a lot of responsibility for this, for where we're at right now. You want to know why family formation is what it is? It's not just because guys don't take responsibility. It's because women are like, why would I bother with these schmucks? I want the best of the best. And you know why I want the best of the best? Yeah, maybe the vulnerability, sure. I've mentioned that several times, but it's also a long-term security. If women believe that long-term security is a given, of course they're entitled to the best. Of course they want the guy who's the apex guy who's who's getting 20,000, supposedly getting 20,000 chicks, right? He didn't. I know I'm being facetious. But the guy who's the apex alpha dude who's Genghis Khan numbers, right? Genghis Chad. Genghis Chad. He's responding to market demand. Why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't he do that? Well, he should be ethical and moral. Yeah, okay. Yeah, you should. I'm not going to tell you what you should and shouldn't do. I don't make judgment calls. I don't give you prescriptions on this show. Yeah, should he? Oh, that's why we have socially enforced monogamy. Pretty much a no-brainer. But again, when all bets are off, when all restrictions are off, female sexuality, I don't want to repress the little lady's sexuality. You'll never hear that. You don't hear pastors talk about this. You won't hear Jordan Peterson talk about this. You won't hear even like very well-meaning, well-rounded like social scientists ever say, like, remember on Sunday show when I was doing the breakdown with Brett Weinstein and his I guess it's his wife, and I forget what her name is off the top of my head. Is it Heather? I think it's Heather something. They just don't want to say, you know what? We need to put some restrictions on women's. We got to curb this. We got to curb this hypergamy. Well, we need to get rid of Tinder. Tinder's just facilitating what the natural impulse is. So, do we just get rid of Tinder? Tinder is completely destroying the sexual marketplace, and it's destroying the women's or men's ability to bond, or that's why we're in such degenerate state in the West, right? No, it's because the natural. Until you embrace the fact that it's a biological reality. And we've removed all the social buffers and all the stigmas that go along with that. We have to look at the female side of that equation. Jordan, Rob does. Rob knows. Rob's good. I've read Rob. So that's that part. I'm going to move up. As I said, I'm going to bounce around. So I'm going to move up to an hour 14 because we get into some really spicy stuff up here. So let me put it up to right about there. There we go.
And so we would expect that to have no political impact whatsoever.
We're going to talk about birth control here in a minute.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem to me that it's unlikely that it would have zero effect. I guess my question would be, why now then? Why would it? I mean, because women have been going to university now for 50 plus years.
Right,
I think they've been the majority.
They didn't dominate.
Well, right. they've dominated. I mean, I think they've tipped past 50% since I think the early 90s. So why is it now that, this, I mean, perhaps, that's one ingredient is sort of the dominance of women on universities, in addition to maybe social media and a few other sort of more recent inventions that have spurred this on.
Yeah, well, there was definitely a spike in politically correct beliefs of the sort that you've described in the 90s.
Oh, interesting.
And, right. I mean, but what seemed to happen then, I think, and that was when I was teaching in Boston, it bubbled up, but then the economy boomed so madly that people seemed to be preoccupied by other things for a long period of time.
Okay.
So, and then it went kind of back underground, and I thought, well, maybe we're done with that nonsense to some degree, but it certainly popped back up more recently. And also, 30 years isn't very long. I mean, we're looking at massive demographic transformations in the structure of our society. We don't understand. I mean, we already talked about the effect of technology, of computer technology on mating, but we certainly haven't talked about the effect of relatively accessible and effective birth control technology and all of that. We touched on that, but I mean, these are huge changes that we don't know anything about.
I mean, even the sort of birth control issue. I mean, it's really interesting to see just like how the discussion around dating has changed so much. I mean, I remember, reading things from the sort of early 2010s, like 2012, 2013, about how hookup culture was this great thing that was liberating. And I think more recently, people are now starting to question that, about whether that's, I mean, educated people questioning whether this is good for society. And yeah, I mean, I've read this very interesting article, long form article in Brookings. I can't remember the author, specifically about reproduction technology and how essentially this has given rise to, in some ways, to more broken homes. And the reasoning was that once reproduction became a biological choice for the mother, then fatherhood became a social choice for the man, simply because in the past, if a woman got pregnant, there were all of these norms in place for the man to basically marry the woman, these sort of shotgun marriages. The community shamed the men into marrying the women. If you skipped out on the woman, then you were seen as a deadbeat and so on. There was a lot of taboo and shame around that. But
yeah, well, we don't even know what effect there is socially, for example, with the presumption that, well, if you get pregnant, it's your own fault because the reliable reproductive prevention technology is at hand. And many women who get pregnant have not taken the pill properly, for example. And so I'm not saying that they should be blamed for that. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that it opens the door for attribution of responsibility to the women. And we don't know what effect there is of that on social institutions.
That is actually.
And as long as it's up in the air, we're just going to make it this ambiguous thing, right? Oh, well, women, they just didn't know how to take the pill the right way. There are no such things as an accidental pregnancy today. Not in 2021. Sorry, not sorry. Women know how to take the pill. Women know how to get Norplant. Women know how to prevent pregnancy. And if they didn't, let's just say for sake of argument, oops, free and safe and legal abortion has been a right of women since Roe v. Wade, 1973, somewhere around there. So, and in fact, and even in Texas, you want to know why women fight tooth and nail for abortion rights? That's why, because it's a fail safe for bad reproductive choices. That's what it is. That's the nuts and bolts of it. Is it will forestall a pregnancy you didn't want. Now, why they don't want it? Well, that's a topic for another show. But that's really what birth control is. It's the ultimate expression of hypergamy. As we were just saying, it's not about, oops, she forgot the pill. Oh, there's incidences where Jordan. I've already done the quote unquote grape culture show with Myron on Fresh and Fit. You can look at the incidences of why it is that women have abortions. I think I mentioned it in that show anyways, and what the reasons for women having abortions. Rape accounts for all of like a fraction of 1% in the states they're allowed to actually keep those stats. By and large, well over 90%, like 95, 96% of abortions are performed electively. So it's not so much about, oops, I took the pill. It's women have kids because they are now the sole arbiters of the human reproductive process and have been so really since 1965, well over 30 years. And they're also talking about like, oh, well, women are in school now and there's more of them now. Well, yeah, there are. And what's more interesting is when you look at the demographic shift in the majors that those women take, what is it that they're focusing on? Why is it that there are more women in communications and psychology and human resources and in these quote unquote rewarding, majors, whereas guys are focusing more on things, right? Like STEM fields. And he's acknowledged that before, but we still have to look at the overwhelming reasons why women get into that sector of, of the economy as opposed to anything else. Women aren't like getting degrees so they can work in raw sewage. They're not getting degrees so they can be an electrician on a construction site. Very, very fragment, less than a fragment of 1%, a fraction of 1%. So we have to look at the reasons for that as well. And I know they can't get into every single detail in this show, but once again, the catalyst for this, hormonal birth control. It was a more significant, this is me saying this, but it was more significant an invention than the atomic bomb. At least to humankind anyways.
The argument, if I recall from this Brookings article, which was that, not necessarily on a societal level, it wasn't like society suddenly said, well, now if you get pregnant, it's your fault because of the pill. It was more on a local level. Couples started to believe this, men started to believe it, the neighborhood, the community started to accept that, if a man has sex with a woman and she gets pregnant, the man can say to himself, well, that's not my problem. That's kind of your fault because, you have this magical pill that can whatever, so I don't have to get involved anymore. And I think the local community and the social environment sort of tacitly, if not sort of openly, but at least tacitly started to accept this kind of logic, this kind of reasoning. And this basically allowed men to skip out on their responsibility.
Right. Well, it's almost inevitable to accept it if you accept the proposition that women now have control over the reproductive function.
There we go.
And we don't want to de-emphasize, like I thought the 20th century would be remembered for three things: hydrogen bomb, computer chip, the pill.
Mm-hmm.
Three bombs, right? Because there hasn't been a time in human history where females had control over the reproductive function. It's the equivalent of, almost the equivalent of a new species in terms of dramatic biological transformation.
Say it with me, Jordan. Women control eugenics for humanity. That's really what it is. It's a eugenics program. And everything we've talked about up to this point when it comes to Tinder and who they're selecting and where hypergamy works and all this great stuff that we're now well aware of 60 some odd years after the sexual revolution, it's time we put those dots together. And it's time we start living according to the objective reality that 65 years have taught us about that bomb that went off in 1965. We have to start accepting that. We have to start living in new order data, not old order hopes and dreams. No more blank slate. No more sexual conquests. No more, feminist language. That is a failed, dead meme. It's a failure. Feminism is a failure. Here we are. We can see the results and the products of that failure that we still are clinging to today. We're still clinging like a security blanket. We can't let go. The little ladies, they make decisions for us. No. Blank slate is bullshit. Social constructionism is bullshit. I don't know how else to make this. I can use your own arguments and show you that it's bullshit. So it's like, when are we going to accept this? When are we going to accept the fact that this is where we're at is not a result of fiendish guys or some sort of social act or whatever. It's because that's the way the machine is built. And until we accept that it's not the ghost in the machine, it's not the naturalistic fallacy, and it's not the blank slate, until we can accept that this is it, nuts and bolts. Where we're at, we got to make decisions based on what we have and the data that we have in our hands here and let go of this Pollyanna nonsense about, conquest and so, guys are fiendish, narcissistic personality disorder. When are we going to, at what point are we going to, if people have asked me, I've done essays and videos on this, like, are we our sister's keeper? Well, if we aren't, we sure as hell should be right now. And we should be, according to what we've seen since the pill, since the bomb exploded, since the sexual revolution, since the summer of love, man, Woodstock and the boomers, man. Since then, then what? Now what are we going to do? We see here it is. Here's all the empirical data. Well, okay, now we have to make a decision based on the predictive framework from this data that we have right here. Nah, forget it. We just want to have, men need to man up and be responsible.
Someone's gonna edit that part out and turn it into something.
Good luck to them. It's not like I don't feel bad for the women who are put in this position. I certainly do. They have a tremendous amount to contend with. But the other thing that's quite interesting is all of the debates about consent that have emerged on campus, and exactly what constitutes consent. I mean, because the 60s hypothesis in the wake of the pill was, well, sex doesn't really matter. So, any consent will do because it's now become a trivial endeavor. That was the theory, right? It's just sex. Well, and AIDS put the blocks to that theory very, very rapidly. And no one likes to talk about this because there's many things we don't like to talk about, but the AIDS virus mutated to take advantage of promiscuity in a major way. And so promiscuity distributed AIDS and contributed to the manner in which it manifested itself. And so sex turned out to be a dangerous force in multiple dimensions apart from mere reproductive, danger. The other sexually transmitted disease were reasonably controlled with antibiotics. So
I find it interesting that people are so just reluctant to talk about the importance of sex as an incentive. I mean, there's a lot of discussion in society, for example, about economic incentives, about jobs, professions, economic inequality, and so on. But there's not much talk about the role that sex plays. I mean, from the sort of evolutionary perspective, sex has been around since before we were human. Sex is still going to be around long after humans have gone extinct. Like, sex is universal. It's what drives every single species. But I'm just surprised at how often we overlook it as an incentive for behavior and how fast things are changing in the realm of sex. I just saw this statistic from the Washington Post showing that from 2008 to 2018, the amount of sexlessness among men under the age of 30 has doubled. So in 2008, 15% of men under age 30 reported not having sex in the past year. And by 2018, it had doubled to about 30%. And for women, it increased slightly. It was something like 10% in 2008 to like 15% in 2018. So there was an increase, a slight increase. But for men, it has doubled to the point where about 1 in 3 young men are reporting that they haven't had sex in the past year, which is a very new thing.
Despite the mating apps.
Right. But despite the apps, despite even more support supposedly for sexual freedom and for polyamory and novel relationship arrangements and the further sort of devaluing of the importance of sex, more people are having less of it, men and women, but especially young men.
Yeah, well, my understanding is that's damn near epidemic in Japan.
Okay.
So
what's happening?
An epidemic here.
A tremendous number of young men in Japan are falling into that category. And in fact, this society has become increasingly sexless, even among young people. I mean, that's reflected to some degree in the declining birth rate. But now it's been a long time since I looked at the statistics, but that's my understanding. And so if it happened there, it's not surprising that it, might happen here. And that might be a consequence too of this emergent polygamy that we were describing, is that all the...
No, Jordan, it is happening here. In fact, the stats that Rob's quoting are exactly the same stats that I quoted I think it was last 2 weeks ago. Last Wednesday, actually a week ago. When I was talking about male virginity, and I was using those stats, and there's a whole lot more that go along with that. I don't want to dig those out. Go back to that show and you can have a look at those, but it's here and it's been here. We've understood this since, they did the research from 2008 to 2018. So I've known about this stuff for almost 2.5 years at the very least. We know this. In fact, it was big headlines in the Black Pill Doomer communities. Oh, look, we're doomed. But what these guys don't, what Jordan really doesn't, he'll dance around here. And you can watch the rest. I hate to do this to you, but you can watch the rest of the video and check that out. But one of the things that Jordan just simply doesn't get is that pretty much puts the last nail in the coffin of his presumptions about hypergamy, his presumptions about why we're in the state that we're in right now. He just simply doesn't have the whether he has the interest or whatever. I just don't think he is as in touch with the sexual marketplace and understanding, well, certainly what Rob's talking about. But again, he is, and again, not to run him up the flagpole, but I do understand his history with his wife. I do understand that, you know, he met her when he was like 7 years old. Got one-itis for her back then. I watched the interview with Michaela and his wife and him, and I get the impression that he's very blue pill in that sense. And I said so as far back as 2018, and people ran me up the flagpole. They said, "Oh, Rollo, he's getting guys to go back to church. Isn't that something good?" I don't know, maybe, but I can tell you right now that he's not red pill. And everybody wanted to tell me how red pill he was, and they were filling stadiums and arenas all over the world with him and Dave Rubin going, you know, place to place and selling a 12-step book. We're literally a 12-step book. If he's your thing, again, I'm not shitting on the guy. I'm just saying we have to approach this from a more practical understanding of how he comes to the sort of assessments that he does. Clearly, he's not aware of the data that Rob is presenting to him. And clearly, he is not aware of the impact or the significance or the correlation that information, that data, those data sets have to what he's asserted since the beginning of the video. So what that says to me is when we have a rise in virgin men between the ages of 18 and 29 years old, while women are unaffected, it seems to me that women are still doing the majority of the sexual selection, whether that's on Tinder or that's just meeting the guy at Bible study. Women are the ones that are doing the selection, and they're the ones that are deciding who gets laid and who doesn't, who goes home with his hand. And we're at the point right now where we're trying to make legislation so that women will never have to deal with another beta male again. They will never have to deal with a guy who should know better than to stay in his lane. We're going to criminalize making an approach. Oh, he made me feel uncomfortable. Arrest him. Okay, off to jail you go. Oh, me too him. Okay, off to jail you go. Oh, he looked at me a beat longer than I wanted him to. Okay, fire him from work. Take his business away from him, take his livelihood away from him just for whatever it is. And so what he's correct about one thing, they do learn this. They learn caution. It's not fear, it's caution. It's pragmatic caution when it comes to, you know, workplace arrangements or whatever else you want to call it. You know, I get it, guys. I understand why you are the way you are, but here it is. Black and white, we see a guy who's, you know, an old school, old order mentality when it comes to the sexual marketplace that has no frame of reference about the new order. You have to stay on top of your game. You have to keep your finger on the pulse. And I just simply don't think that he has his finger on the pulse. So, and then last but not least, I mean, when we look at those stats, and I'll just repeat this one more time because I mentioned this on the last Wednesday's show, is that women are the ones that are making the decisions right now. They're the ones who are in control of the breeding. They're in control of the reproduction. From you even approaching, from the micro, right? From you even having the notion to approach that girl, because you know that if you do and you screw it up, if you're awkward, socially awkward in any way, it could be interpreted as creepy. It could be interpreted as your sexual assault. It can be interpreted that way. And guys understand that. I don't think it is as expressed as most guys want to make it out to be, but still, I do understand that, let's say, caution, that hesitation. From that point, all the way to, I'm going to abort your kid. That's what women are in control of. From you even considering approaching that girl or even wanting to learn game or whatever, you know, or becoming red pill aware, from that to approaching that girl, to taking her out, to doing whatever it is, to being the guy that she wants to bang, to being that guy that's, you know, who's not below average, but at least is somebody she consider having sex with, to the actual having sex, to what comes after the sex, to what comes after building a relationship after that, to what comes after having kids or getting pregnant or not getting pregnant. Or if she does get pregnant and you're not the one, or she doesn't want to be having babies with you, she can abort that. Every step of that way, everything from the just considering having sex with that girl or to approach her in a romantic, intimate way, to all the way to we're breaking up, I'm ghosting you, to I'm going to abort your kid, to I'm going to have your kid and you're going to pay for it, right? All those decisions from point A to point B, those are all decided by women. But yet we still want to say that it's men's imperative, that men, the onus is on you. And we can see the data. We have it right here from point A to point B, from approach the girl to let's get married, from approach the girl to it's your baby, from approach the girl to I'm going to abort your kid. That's where we're at. And I just don't think that people get that, especially not with the people who should be in the know, who should be these thought leaders. People want to make me out to be a thought leader. People want me to be the godfather of the manosphere. I never call myself that, but thank you. But they're not listening to me. They're really not. I mean, I've got a good channel. Thank you very much for my 31,000 subs. Thank you very much for that. But by comparison, I'm not even in the same league as a guy like Jordan Peterson. I'm not even in the same league as like Steve Stewart Williams or even Rob Henderson for that matter. I mean, people take, he's got a DR in front of his name. So therefore he's got to be taken more seriously than the schmuck on the internet who talks about hypergamy all the time. I'm only one guy. Other people have to understand this. Other people have to get this message. And the only way you can, at least I believe the only way you can get this message is from the bottom up. Each one tell one. So I hope you do. And I hope you guys got something out of today's show. By the way, the Audible for Rational Male Religion is now available on Audible. So go pick that up if you have not picked it up already. I want to hear back from you guys about this. I hope I didn't step on anybody's toes too badly, but if I did, yeah, whatever. Tell me about it in the comments. I'm going to be doing another, I'm hosting Rule Zero on Saturday at 11:30 a.m. on this channel. And I think that's it for today, guys. I hope you guys got something out of this. I hope this was actually had some steak with the sizzle. So thanks a lot. Bye.